everyone. It is Monday. Mistral and I are back to talk this week about the root center, this wonderful motor and pressurized center. We both have this center defined, helping us stay grounded and rooted, managing our pressure. So drop in the comments if you have a defined or undefined root. Let us know as we explore this center. This is the last center in our 9-week series. So we have something really fun planned for the future, but we're wrapping it up today. Hey, Mistral.
We're here. We're here. Yes, the root center. I'm so excited. The last center of our chats,
Yeah,
essentially.
I know. And it's so crazy. We've been doing these for over 9 weeks, and this is our second time through these. So if you're catching up and want to learn about the other 8 centers, go back through our feed and you can learn about those other centers because today it's all about the root.
Yes, yes. And we started these because human design is so complex, and we both have this passion for helping others understand their energetic blueprint, because it's something that when you are feeling that resistance and you feel like you're pushing that sort of slippery, mossy rock up a hill, that's when we're living out of alignment, right? And so by jumping into our centers here, we're able to actually figure out, like, where are we living out of alignment, and what do I need to look at to really jump back into alignment? And the root center is kind of one of those pressure centers. And I know both of us have it defined, and it looks like someone just commented, Adrienne, yep, just said the only center undefined. Which is really, really great, because we're chatting a little bit about what it means to have a defined center versus an undefined center, and some of the things to look at in the root area.
Yeah, and I see a lot of conditioning that happens in the root, right? Whether it's defined or undefined, this center is about pressure and stress. And we live in a world, a society where there's so much pressure and stress to do more, to, get this done, get this off your plate, get your whole to-do list done. So this is a really popular center that I talk about with my clients in the work that I do on deconditioning. And Mistral, when it comes to business, do you talk about the root a lot? Does this play in?
It does. And we talk a lot about the root with, again, going into that pressure and that need to get things done. And what actually, are we keeping ourselves busy, or are we actually being productive in our business, right? Are we kind of conditioned to just like do instead of actually sitting back and thinking about, well, what do I actually need to accomplish? And I myself is something, even knowing this about myself and knowing this about human design, I still get caught in that, especially as a manifesting generator, having a lot of energy to do, getting caught in that loop and that pressure to feel that I constantly need to be doing something to make a business move forward. And that's what I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who can relate to that, especially with social media, where you feel you're just constantly having to show up to meet the algorithm, to do this, to do that. And when we can sort of, decondition from a lot of those beliefs and really think about, okay, what do we actually need to do? And what centers, or sorry, what gates and channels are actually defined in our root center? Or how can we support ourselves, right? And what actually needs to happen today versus what might just need to happen this month.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love Adrienne said that you figured it out in the 9 to 5, not so much in entrepreneurship. So I love
Yeah.
that you're navigating entrepreneurship and the pressure, right? It is what we make it. So sometimes it's a relief to not be in that 9 to 5 and to, navigate your own pressure and stress. But sometimes I know a lot of entrepreneurs that can feel almost more stressed out, right? Because we're putting the pressure on ourselves. We're the only ones holding ourselves accountable for it. So sometimes entrepreneurship can have its own challenges. So I'm so glad that you've navigated that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious if Adrienne's still here, what her actual energy type is, because that can help us sort of look at that a little bit more too, right? With the different energy centers, sometimes we feel different pressures in these areas based on our conditioning, and also just sort of who we are and how we are designed to actually show up, which is really quite huge.
Yeah, and with all your centers defined, I would guess Manny Jen, but not necessarily, right? Could just be a generator. Well, you would be an emotional generator. So yeah,
Yeah.
let us know. And then consciously ab, yours is defined and you're struggling in the 9 to 5. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay, emotional
Totally.
manifesting generator, Adrienne. I love it.
Yeah. There
There
you
we
go. You're so
go.
welcome here. That's exactly I'm a 4-1 emotional mani gen. So totally get to that.
And I'm a 3-5.
9 to 5. Yeah. Yeah.
3-5
Right.
emotional projector for me. So you got a little bit of both of us.
Yeah. Oh, I love how consciously Ab said 9 to 5 makes me go nutty. Yeah, totally. Totally. I had so much pressure when I was in my 9 to 5 to constantly do such amazing, hard work and take on this and take on that. And there comes the people pleasing, right? That pressure to not let anybody down and to, especially if you're trying to climb the corporate ladder and you're competing against, and I say competing because I know, at least in my job, I was really pitted against the other women, and it was almost like a competition, which was really hard. And so you're constantly, it's almost like you drive yourself to burnout because you're constantly doing, doing, doing to please everybody else instead of actually coming back to focusing. If I just focused on myself here and focused on what I actually should accomplish versus feeling what I need to accomplish,
Mhm.
there would be such a different energy output happening right now.
Right. Yeah. With the root center, you really want to look out for the shoulds, right? What are you shoulding? That I should be doing this. I should be doing that because that is that conditioned pressure. So
Mhm.
yeah, really making sure to decondition your root. Even with a defined root, there was some deconditioning that I had to do. I have gate 58 define conscious and unconscious. And thanks to human design, I had known that I had these perfectionistic tendencies my whole life, but with human design, it really helped me see that the other side of gate 58, gate 18, I was really falling into the shadow there. And it was really, really consuming and contributing to a lot of pressure. So just bringing that awareness was so helpful in my deconditioning journey.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. That was mine too, bringing the awareness because and I love how consciously Ab said when I got rid of the I should, there was so much more freedom on the other side. And I think that's one thing that is so hard for us. I do want to say as women, because I feel like there's a lot more put on us of like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Why am I sitting here on the couch reading a book when I should be doing the laundry? I should be cooking dinner. I should be, right? I mean, it can just go on and on so much, so much. And when we can take out those I shoulds and be like, okay, well, what about what I want to do or what feels good for me right now or what allows me to feel grounded and centered so that I can make the right decision? Then I feel like I can move forward and that freedom does release itself, right? Because when I always put this I should on me, but then when I would go and talk to, for example, my husband around our family dynamics of our kids and told him how I feel these shoulds, he was like, why would you feel that? Because he doesn't feel that. And that's a whole different thing. I think a part of he does have a defined root, but he also has different conditioning. He has a different upbringing. And so there's a lot of different things that he would feel around that than I would. And so much of it was I was putting this pressure on me. It wasn't even him thinking that I should be doing these things, right? It wasn't my kids thinking I should be doing these things, although I think they do always constantly ask me for snacks. But, they're also old enough to go get them themselves. So there's no when you take that I should off, and then when it comes to business, it really, for me, was looking at what do I really actually feel that I want to put out today? What feels good for me versus the I should write an email, I should write a post, because the energy behind all of that is just a waste of time anyway, right? Like let's just sit in the energy for a moment. The I should energy is so heavy, so negative, so forced that as an entrepreneur, people feel that through your posts, through your emails, and doesn't create a sense of know, like, and trust, or a sense of that someone wanting to purchase or buy from you when they sense that heavy energy anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when it comes to the defined route, right? For all of us that have a defined route, you really want to look at which channel do you have, right? Where is all that pressure trying to flow, trying to move to? Because kind of just honoring that can help. Like you mentioned in Mistral, right? You have your
Mhm.
defined route and you have your emotional wave channel to your solar plexus. right? I do too. We just have different emotional waves.
Yeah.
So you were talking about the pressure to feel, right? To change those emotions, to feel better, right? Our emotions really rule us. We're here to feel. So it's the pressure to feel differently, to move along our wave, to get the things off our list so that we feel better. So kind of honoring that and making sure that you're checking in with pressure and what makes you feel good, right? We want to feel good. So allowing that pressure to move. And if you have one of the format channels going from your root to your sacral, right? If you're a generator, knowing that you might need to get that energy out, you may need to, run that battery in whatever way it is for you to get that life force energy moving through you. And to the spleen, right, that's a whole different set of pressure. You might be pressured to utilize your intuition, to really act on your instincts when that splenic hit comes, making sure that you're doing that thing. So this is kind of how the root tends to flow, if you will.
Right, right, and with the root being connected to those 3 centers, right, and then the energy wanting to move, right, up because everything comes up to our throat, which we covered, what, 6 weeks ago now, right, as being the center of manifestation for all of the centers. It is really about moving that energy and not being stagnant in it, but wouldn't it be nice if we could be like, I should go out and dance, have a dance party right now. I should get out my hula hoop and dance outside in the sunshine." Like, isn't that such a different energy around that than and moving that energy that we want to move versus I should go and just do the dishes, right? Nobody wants to go and do the dishes. Like, so there's also there is a good I should in some ways, I think, when we're looking at it as moving our energy that we need to move, especially as a manifesting generator or as a generator to move that life force energy, right? That pressure out. There isn't a good I should, I think, with that.
Right. And the root is all about adrenals, adrenaline. So as long as you're, acting on that physical adrenalized pressure and moving it, right? That's how the root is designed to act and move. So if you know, we talk at the define root that you can be an adrenaline junkie, right? Like for so long, it's such a strange story, but for so long, like I just wanted to jump off a cliff, right? Not in the way of like, I don't want to live anymore. But it was just like, oh my gosh, like that would be so thrilling to just go and jump off. But I couldn't. So it was like this withholding. But the more that I was there, in those types of situations, I was like, oh my gosh, this is something that I really want to do. So when I got the opportunity to go skydiving, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, like here's my opportunity to jump out of something. So of course, going up on the plane, 10,000 feet, it's scary. But when the time came to it, I was just so excited hanging out of that airplane, getting to be like, I finally get to launch, right? I finally get to launch out of this. My adrenalized pressure gets to go. I get to, get on this high. So that was one way that was really satisfying to my root and honoring that, like, this pressure I really want to do. How can I do this in a way that makes me feel really good?
Ooh, I like how you said that because I'm kind of also an adrenaline junkie, and I tend to gravitate towards sports or things that are typically are male dominated as well. And I always get such satisfaction in my route. For example, I surf, and so when I'm riding down the line, and I'm like calling guys off the wave because I'm already on it. It's my wave, and it gives me such a sense of satisfaction. I always thought that was in my sacral, but I actually think that might have been coming from my root, to be honest with you, because it was that release of the pressure of wanting to move that life force energy, but also just that pressure of there was a pressure around being in a male dominated sport, I think, that kind of came with it. And so it was almost like a release of it. I feel like that might be connected because it's the same thing with sailing, the same thing, being out in the water and feeling that wind through your hair and doing something that was like that adrenaline piece that not everybody loves to do or is a little bit nervous to do. But I always felt that draw or that pull to release that kind of energy from my body of like, and being able to say that I did it and being able to, um, yeah,
Yeah.
just, I think, talk about that I did it, yeah, and not like as a braggy way, but more just as like an accomplishment for me.
Right, because it felt so good, especially attached to our solar plexus. Um, Oh, there's
Oh.
something really good that I wanted to say. Oh, well, I guess it was shifting this a little, but the root with the pressure, sometimes this is about procrastination. And it kind of,
Mm.
ties a little more in with your authority. But like, I guess to come back to my example, wanting to jump off those cliffs, it was like, no, now's not the time. I gotta procrastinate. I gotta let the pressure really build up until there's the opportunity, right? That opportunity that I got to go skydiving of like, yes, this is it. I've been putting this desire off for so long, letting the pressure build if I want to do this until I could go do it. And it felt so good, right? In college, writing papers, doing exams, I waited till the last minute. I was like, I know that this is only going to take me about 5 hours. Why do I need to start it a week early? Like I have 5 hours the day before. I'm an efficient projector, which of course I didn't know, all those years ago, but I'm going to let procrastinate till this builds because then that's going to get me to act. That's going to get me to launch into writing this paper to actually do it
Mhm.
because that's how my route works, right? It works in a fixed, reliable way because it's defined. When I try to work differently, it doesn't work for me. So now I know I can procrastinate. It's okay as long as I kind of plan for my procrastination.
Ooh, I like this a lot because I think a lot of people see that procrastination as a waste of time or that they're doing something wrong or that they are failing in some kind of way. Whereas the procrastination can be a really huge, like you said, pressure builder that allows you to, for example, in business, you can launch more effectively, right? Because you're building the pressure to the outcome, right? And then launch your programs or launch your coaching business or whatever. And I've noticed when I work with generators who have that defined route, there's almost like this procrastination and a little bit of fear, right? Because we're all moving through the fear of becoming an entrepreneur as well. But there is almost like, and then once we almost build that pressure, it just like pops, and then they're just like, boom, I can't stop them. They're just go, go, go. And that's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And Adrian says, isn't procrastination undefined? Yes. Yes, right? That undefined route can procrastinate things too because you haven't built up the pressure to launch. So
Yeah.
procrastination is definitely for both. For me, I've learned that procrastination, how my procrastination works, it works the same way every time, right? Once I got the hang of my procrastination in college, I used it to my advantage because it worked the same way every time. For the undefined route, sometimes it works and other times you're going to procrastinate thinking that you can, subconsciously can avoid the stress altogether, and it just builds and builds and builds and you may never actually launch, right?
Yeah.
So let me know if that resonates. Like, how does it work for you? um yeah, I'm just thinking of the undefined roots that I work with. It's a lot more stress. There's a lot more stress that goes along with that procrastination. For me, it's still rooted and grounded. Like, I got this. Yes, I'm going to procrastinate. And everyone around me would be like, aren't you worried? Aren't you stressed out? My mom's freaking out and she's like, how are you going to do this? How are you going to pass? And I'm like, I got this. Like, you don't need to worry. Like, I handle my stress. I know what I'm doing. Whereas the undefined route tends to be a lot more stress around like hurrying to get that pressure off, right? That's the voice of
Yep.
the not self of the root or of the undefined root too, of am I hurrying to get this pressure off so that I can be free of this pressure, knowing that there will always be something more to add to that pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a real difference between the defined and the undefined is the fact that with the defined, we can predict, right? We can predict because we have consistent energy there versus in the undefined, you don't know necessarily when that energy is going to be there. And so you utilize it when it's there, right? But if you like skip by it or ignore it or yeah, let it go, then you don't know when that energy is going to come back again, which can again then lead to the more procrastination. And so that's where, especially with your undefined centers, having friends or coaches or people who can support you and understanding like how to ride almost the energy of those undefined centers. An undefined center for me that is a good example is my undefined heart center with zero gates. I know we're talking about the root, but just to talk about that is that my self-worth oftentimes fluctuates. I can have 3 days in a row where I'm just like high, confident, amazed, this is great. And then it goes away and I'm like, wait a minute, 3 days ago, I was like, I thought I knew everything and I had the world, the world was my oyster, and now I'm like, it's not gonna work, I can't make it happy, blah, 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 and that's just knowing that, though, has been so helpful because now I know that because I have that undefined center there, that it's the energy fluctuates, and it's okay, I'm meant to feel that way. So it'd be the same thing with the undefined root, right? Is that getting to know your centers and knowing when does that wave of energy come through and when to utilize it essentially, or when you're on that high.
Yeah, and it's really also honoring the inconsistency, right? Like as a non-sacral, I get spurts of that sacral energy, Mistral, exactly how you defined your heart, that's my energy, right? Some days I'm like, "Ooh, let's go," especially being a conscious reflector, like depending on the moon phase, I can get really charged up. But then there are these other days where I'm just like, down for the count, right? Like I think, and I do this with a friend all the time. I'm like, okay, let's do this. It'll be great. I'll be ready. And then it comes to it, and I'm like, I don't have any energy to do this, right? My root is like, let's just ground down and rest. The sacral's like, we're close to burnout. Let's not do this. So it's really just honoring that energy. And especially, yeah, in the undefined root is honoring those inconsistencies. um, the other piece here that I want to bring up about the adrenals, right? Our adrenal glands is so many people suffer from adrenal fatigue, right? Even as a
Yeah.
defined root, I had adrenal fatigue a couple years ago because, again, this is more of my undefined sacral, but I was drinking a lot of coffee because I was giving into the hustle culture saying, I need to get these things done. I need to drink this coffee. I need to have energy. I need to have this consistent way of getting a lot of things done. So essentially, my lack of format channels, right? I have no channels from the root to the sacral. I don't even have a defined sacral, but I was using that stimulant, that coffee, to say, hey, let's do this. And my adrenals burned out, and there it takes years to get your adrenals back online. So I always like to put this in there, especially for the undefined root. And if you have a completely open root, definitely be aware of this, to really check in with, how much are you putting your adrenals into overdrive, and how can you really just step back and honor when something is stressful. What do you need to do, right there? The root is so much about stress management. How are you managing your stress?
Mhm. Yeah, and we all know no matter what kind of job or entrepreneurial journey, or if we're a mother, or if we just in life, there's so much stress, there is so much overwhelm, and there's so much pressure to make things happen in the world that we live in. And so, really getting to know your center in that way of like, do I have a defined, consistent energy there, or do I have an undefined? And how can I tap into the pressure of the procrastination, or how can I tap into when I do actually have that excitement or that energy come into my body? How can I utilize that? And that's going to be really important to avoiding that adrenal burnout, because like you, I've experienced that as well, which, I was like, well, I'm a manifesting generator. I shouldn't be having, adrenal fatigue. I have all the energy in the world. Well, yeah, if I'm in alignment and I'm doing what I want to be doing versus all those I shoulds that we spoke about at the start. Especially I was working in a nonprofit. So someone mentioned earlier in the chat about wearing so many hats. And I think that's a big problem, that as women, we wear a lot of hats and we don't know when to say no. And the fact that no can be a full sentence.
Right. And two, I just want to touch on two of the gates in the adrenal center. One, gate 52, is the gate of the mountain of stillness.
Mm.
So even though we're in the root, right, we're talking about this pressure and stress, there is a gate of stillness, of being still and grounded, right? So, how can you tap into that? Do you have gate 52 defined? Do you have consistent energy there? Where on the spectrum are you
Mhm.
functioning, right? Where is your frequency? Are you able to be still and be content and grounded in stillness? Or are you trying to get that stress off and you can't be still? And then the other gate, which I mentioned before, gate 58, this gate is all about joy. So when you are managing these things, when you are in alignment, you can have so much joy. So again, do you have gate 58 defined? Are you able to experience joy? Or do you not have these gates defined? Are you struggling here because you're trying to push energy that isn't there, isn't consistent for you? Or have you absorbed it from someone else, like me with gate 58, and you're mistaking it as your own? Because that's where and how the conditioning can happen there too.
Yeah, I have neither of those gates defined.
I don't have gate 52. I know someone with gate 52, and it's actually their conscious son. And they are so not able to be still. It drives me crazy. They're a generator, and I just want to be like, yeah, well, even though I have said this, but I'm like, if you can just hone in on your stillness, like, do you know the magic you can create? But the root is such a tricky center, and they have their root defined too, and it still is. It's challenging. They're trying to get that stress and pressure off so that they can be free. And when I have this conversation with people, I have to remind them, like, we can never be free of pressure. Yes, in the now, in the moment, I can be free of pressure. But as soon as I return to life, there are always things that we have to do. Like you said, Masra, whether it be work, whether it be parenting, whether it be taking care of ourselves, right? There's always something to do.
Yeah. I wanted to really quickly touch on what you said before, which I thought was so great, where you said, is this mine, this
Mhm.
energy mine to hold on to, or is it someone else's? And I think that's so important when we think about the centers that we have defined and the centers that we have undefined, because when we think about our parents and their generation and what they were taught to believe, right? And they've passed those beliefs on down to us, maybe with some of their own beliefs and that shifts and things that they did wanted to release themselves that they let go of. But I think about, when you talk about the gate of the stillness, I think both my parents never stopped moving. So of course, even if I had that defined, I probably would still have that pressure to constantly be on the move, constantly doing something, constantly multitasking. I mean, that's just my managen energy anyway. But it's thinking about like, is this mine or can I let this go? Is this something I've just been trained to do over the years? And how can I let that go? What can I do? What work can I do to let that go? Because, and those are some of the things that I look at in my undefined areas is just like, what is actually mine or what did I, learn from other people essentially? And yes, growing up with three defined root centers would definitely give you some conditioning in your undefined root 1000%.
Yeah, and how that works too. Adrian, you don't have a defined root, that undefined. So you're amplifying their roots. You're amplifying that energy and absorbing it. So my goodness, I can only imagine the amount of stress that you felt growing up being with those people, because that's a lot, right? The undefined root needs to be on their own timeline. You're going to be late, embrace it, tell everybody to, whatever you want to tell them. um for me, I'm always early. I literally get everywhere at least 5 minutes early so that I can sit, breathe, collect myself. If I'm late, that's when I feel the stress. So, Adrian, if we were going to meet somewhere and I put you on my timeline, I was like, you need to be there 5 minutes early. You better be there. Otherwise, blah, 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 blah. Like, oh, you're going to be so stressed. Like, before you even leave, just thinking about that. So, yes, breathing, super helpful. Breathing is my favorite go to coping skill because we always have it no matter where we are. And yeah, when you can like really ground into your root center too, like, oh, it's just my favorite. I can do a whole nother live just on that. So it's up there.
Oh, Adrian said, I'll be half an hour early. That's got to be from those three defined roots.
Right, right. Plenty of time to
Oh,
breathe in whatever
yeah.
way you need.
Me too. Yeah, let it go. And the laughing is not at you, of course, my love. It's more just laughing with the what we all feel and the pressure that we feel in these centers and what we have to navigate, right, in our own ways. And I was actually giggling inside because I do have that defined route and I'm late all the time everywhere. And I don't care half the time because I feel like it's a part of my personality. It's just who I am. But then there's a part of me, I always feel rushed because I'm always running behind, right? And so then there's that pressure of like, oh my gosh, I don't have them, I can't catch my breath. And so I really probably should get to that 5 minutes early. I can.
Well, there's a should, so be careful what pressure you're adding on.
Good catch. See, sometimes we don't even hear our own words and what we're saying, right?
Yep, yep. That's why I love calling my clients out on the shoulds, and then they start to
Yes.
get good, and then they're like, "Oop, I take that back," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"You're getting good," and then they start calling me out on them, and I'm like, "Yes,
Yeah,
this is
yeah, yeah,
working."
yeah. Yeah. Too much, too well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, So one thing I wanted to just quickly finish up. I know we'll probably finish up soon with the root, but I have a channel from my root into my solar plexus. So like you were saying before, it's that emotional wave. But then I also have a channel from my spleen to the root center,
Mhm.
which I find is a channel of transformation. It's 32 to 54.
Wow.
And so something that I notice with having this channel is that I am so driven and so determined to succeed in life that I literally like I either fight people on the corporate ladder or I find the right people who like will help me climb the ladder, right? Which is funny that in my career how that's changed from when I first started my business to kind of feeling like I was in that competitive mode, right? Where I had to like I'm going to climb this ladder no matter who gets in my way and I'm just going to like blah, blah, blah. And then now it's more like who can I gather, which is this is my four line as well, right? Being the community networking person, who can I gather into my world that will be a part of me climbing? Like who's going to be a part of my transformation? Who's going to be a part of, transforming with me and we'll go and we'll rise together. And so it's been really neat for me to see how this channel transformation has actually shifted as I've learned my human design, as I've stepped into the leadership around my own energetic blueprint and human design, and as my own, self-worth and self-knowledge and what I'm putting out into the world has shifted and changed as well. But how much I can see that this channel has also been a part of, I mean, anyone who knows deeply inside my business, anyone else would have quit, 3 years ago. And I'm still here because I have this channel that drives me forward and a bunch of other channels that also are similar to that. But this channel drives me forward because I see the vision, right? I see where I want to go, what I want to create, and how that is going to help other people, transform in themselves. And so I find it so neat when we really do look into our charts, we start to get this like, oh, that's why I have this fierce ambition. That's why I also have this fear of failure. And that ambition is fueled by that fear of failure. And so it's really interesting to, when you see that, you can start going, oh, I understand now where this is all coming from and why maybe I put some of that pressure on myself, why I put those I shoulds on myself, because I have that ambition that I want to just keep pushing forward. When, yes, that is there. And yes, I do get to utilize that energy, but do I need to utilize it and put that pressure on myself every day? Not necessarily, right? So it's coming back to like what's in alignment. And when I feel that I'm pushing that, slippery rock up the hill, then I know I'm doing it wrong. And how can I shift that?
Yeah. What beautiful energy. I have that channel completely open. So, how beautiful it is for you to work with people like me to share that transformational energy to empower me to transform. Because I don't see that channel very often. So, it's definitely got to be a rarer one. So,
Mm,
definitely being a coach and utilizing your gifts to help all your clients transform.
yeah.
Love
Yeah,
it.
maybe that's why they're so transformative on the call, then they leave the call and they go, "Oh, no, I've lost all that energy."
Right, right, right. They don't have it to take away with them. That drive is there, that defined route to say, yes, we're going to do this. Yes, we're going to transform. But when you come back to your own energy, it's different.
Yeah. Yeah, and just reminding everybody that those clear channels don't mean that you don't have the energy there, right? It's just that you're utilize people who have the energy there when you're in their presence, or you will feel the energy come through at different times when certain gates and channels are in transit, or which basically means when planets are aligned and the energy is activated in that area, essentially, you'll feel it, or you'll just have a inconsistent time when it'll just come and you'll get that sort of like, boom, this is happening right now, and you can jump and utilize that energy, which is a beautiful thing.
Right? Allowing it to flow. So much beautiful
Yeah.
flow within the inconsistencies.
Yes, totally, totally.
Yay.
Any final parting words that we want to sort of talk about just for anybody who is here? Anything you want to finish on?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, anything, please drop them in the comments. I think I mentioned this at the very beginning, but the root, right? It's pressure center. We've been talking all about that, but it's also a motor center too. So it has that raw energy. I kind of always forget that this center is a motor, but it motors. It certainly gives me added energy. Being an energy projector, I have a lot of energy. So to honor when it is defined and when it is not defined, honoring those spurts of energy, honoring when you do have the drive, when you are ready to launch into something, and whether it be get started or do it to relieve that pressure, allowing yourself to utilize that energy, that spurt while you have it.
Yes. Yes. And let's not forget that we have our planning by design coming up, which is essentially helping businesswomen figure out how to be in their business in the most successful way so that you can plan your month not only around your energy and the transits and the planets and what's happening in astrology and human design, but also around your menstruation too. We have some really great workbooks that we're going to be providing in this planning by design, and with monthly meetings and a Telegram group. So there's going to be tons of amazing support. So if that's something you're excited about and you need just like, it's not necessarily guidance, but it's just support. It's accountability. It's having a group of other women who are like-minded, growing and building in the online space. And if you're just feeling like you're hitting your marks or missing your marks, sorry, and you want to hit your marks, this is going to be the place for you to be. 1000%.
Yeah, whether you have a defined route and you need accountability in taking action on that, or whether you have an undefined route and you want some accountability in being able to take action to not only plan out your month but also follow through with that plan for you to have a successful month, whether it be in business and or your personal life too.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Yay.
So message us or drop a comment of membership if you want the link to join that group. We'll be starting in June. It's $11 a month. So there's a lot of really great stuff. We're so excited to get that started.
Yay.
And then we will be back in 2 weeks, right? Next week is Memorial Day here in the US. So we will be enjoying vacations. Mistral and I might actually get to see each other in person, take some photos, because we haven't met in person yet. So I can give you an actual hug.
I know. It would be amazing.
Yeah. And then we'll be back the following week, which is in June. June 3rd, we'll be back to still do our Mondays at 3 p.m. Eastern lives. Because we've done this round twice, we're going to start talking more about our specialties, right? About myself, doing the personal deconditioning for your unique design and energy. And Mistral, I will let you say your expertise.
Gosh, we're going to be talking about all kinds of things because I do a lot when it comes to human design, but I really love specializing, obviously, in the marketing, as we talked a little bit about, but also in manifestation. And that's going to be really exciting and talking about finding flow, right? Really embodying aspects of your human design to find more flow in your business, to find more alignment in how you're showing up, and to really, truly manifest like the dream life that you are thinking about, and you're just like, how do I make this happen? It doesn't make sense, or I can't figure out how to do it. That's what we're going to be working on. And Jen and I are going to use our human design knowledge to really support and guide you in how to get there.
And that's what we'll be talking about in 2 weeks. We'll be talking about manifestation through the arrows,
Mhm.
because we've gotten quite a few questions about this, and we had a great chat about this in our HD Q&A free monthly live chat. So if you're interested in that, let us know. But yeah, we're going to bring it here to Instagram to talk about what are the two manifestation arrows mean, because I only knew about one and then Mastrala introduced me to the other, so we love sharing our information. So if you're curious about how to manifest in an aligned way for you, and let me tell you, I was doing it wrong for me for years. Why wasn't this
Yeah.
working? And then when I learned about human design manifestation, I was like, oh, no wonder why this hasn't been working. And it's been life changing for me, so we're so excited to talk about that in 2 weeks with you all.
Yay. Awesome, Jen. I'll see you in 2 weeks, and I'll be so excited for everything that we're bringing to the world with human design.